So we were talking about getting in. I actually, I think martial arts was, you know, initially I did it to protect myself, and then after
How old
that,
were you when you started? I'm trying to remember.
14.
Yeah.
I started with Master Alan Lee,
Yeah.
who I actually see on a
amazing,
weekly
man.
basis still, because we work in the same space, which is unreal to me that, you know, that circle is still there.
How many years? 30?
Or, I mean, I'm not going to say
Yeah.
over that.
But it's, you know, I mean,
But you can figure it out. It's been a while.
he's a high level cat. I love that guy.
Yeah, but he's not only as a high level cat. I was going to say that martial arts for me, once you get past the point of kicking people and punching people, and once you get to the point, hopefully, where your concern isn't so much how deadly you are, then something else opens up. And also, there are a few systems that are going to give you the totality of what I call the mystery, right?
Love that word.
Yoga, I went into yoga at a time when yoga wasn't offered. I think there was like 2 schools. Like you said, at the time when you were in acupuncture, it was 1 school. It was like 2 schools in New York. I actually learned from a fencer in Purchase, actually. And I went through other schools from there. I needed access to a deeper plan. You know, even the Pilates technique also at that time was access to a deeper plan. It was all about looking inside yourself. Pilates at that time influenced me more than anything on my teaching style, because the way the teachers, Phoebe Higgins, if you're listening, she was one of my first teachers, and also Romana. At that time, she would come up to the school, but they made you pay attention to yourself. It wasn't about how many you did, it was how well you did the many. And actually, the repetitions were limited to 5 to 7 repetitions for the most part, with an individual exercise. And my thought process 30 years later is that the reason behind that is because it's very difficult for you to focus exclusively when you're doing long periods and long repetitious things. You know, it's like a woodcutter who has to hit each one perfectly every time. That's a level of mastery that we're trying to attain. You know, someone who can do the action, fully committed, completely present, no distraction. That is a form of a level that one can reach.
Oh, absolutely.
And so my whole thing with repetition is that unless you are at that stage, you have to be very careful. In particular with exercise, when you're talking about strength training or corrective motion exercises, or any what people used to call calisthenics, or any of those kinds of things where the form is very, very important. Without a structure, you really don't have an exercise. The word exercise itself, inside of it, means that you're going someplace. You're exercising for a purpose. You're training. I don't ever say to people that we work out. I don't work out. I don't have time to work out. We train. Working out is superfluous. Working out is something that people who have a lot of time can do, because after you work out, then you have to train.
That's correct.
Because you're not.
Yeah, but you're not embodied. You're not in the moment, and this is the thing again where we're both totally on the same page. The body-mind connection into the moment. I mean, that's where the mystery. And I love the word that you're using, mystery. That's what my teachers have always talked about. You know, the high-level qigong guys or the high-level martial artists were always talking about the mystery, because they're unnameable, right? Me and you have talked about that in that length of Lao Tzu, but it really is about the mystery. To get into the mystery is about the body-mind connection into the present moment. That's where spirit and matter meets. But that we're so anxious that it's actually hard for us to do that. So the gift of what you're doing is to train people to gently bring them, push them out of that place and have them hold that space. That's where you line it up.
Well, I think it's not just me, it's the concepts.
We come from a lineage, right?
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say, the word people use now is holistic.
right.
Or, you know, there are other words that people use with it. But essentially, I like that word holistic because it feels to me like it encompasses more.
Yes.
But it's the principles. Like, I shy away even from disciplines. Like, somebody asks me, well, what should I do for myself? Or should I go to Pilates? Or should I go to yoga? Or should I go to Feldenkrais or Laban or Klein? And I'm like, well, at this point in time, to be quite honest with you, it's really about the teacher. It's really about their grasp of, you know, of the work, and at a certain point, it ceases to be martial arts, it ceases to be dance, it ceases to be yoga. It really becomes about what the practitioner's intention is.
And you really not you, but a person will really bring to them the frequency that ready to do. So when I was talking about Alan saying heavy, I don't mean he's heavy as this, although it's that. It's actually to me the connection of this, and open up to that. So there's the heart element there. You know, this is just second and third chakra. This is just survival. So when we learn martial arts on that level, that's just an abject terror. Once you go with that, you go to the heart. And then you go above the heart. So it's like speaking truth, seeing truth, and then being in truth. So that's the intent. That lengthening, you know, I always remember your posture. It's like you can see a lot of people's postures in 2 seconds. Is the lengthening. It's that thing.
Finding that vertical axis.
That's it.
And it only can come, that expansion can only come from being able to access, well, the visceral. I'll say you have to be able to access the visceral. And where is that? That's where the breath begins.
I love that.
So, you know, we have to start there.
Well, and the amazing thing is, right, I mean, you know this, and we both know this, we can actually ourselves be in that place, and I'm going into a sort of a stress situation, and then the breathing shuts and then goes up. So this thing of teaching ourselves and others to constantly be in the moment, that's how we choose from that sympathetic to parasympathetic, from the disconnected from the divine to connecting with the divine. Because the breath, you don't breathe for a minute, you die. Single most important thing, and no one does it. I mean, this is half a gallon, this is half a pint. When you're doing this abdominal breathing that you're teaching people, I'm teaching people, that's half a gallon of oxygen. You're breathing up here, you're taking half a pint. The difference is so profound, and you cannot drink water for days and you survive, you don't eat for days. You don't breathe 4 minutes, you're dead. And most of us are choosing the half a pint unconsciously all day long.
Well, you also don't have any control over yourself.
Yes.
I'm teaching kids now, and it's a control issue as well, right?
Interesting.
If you do not control the breath, you cannot control yourself. So yes, the commodification of everything.
Yes. So this culture is basically being threatened by the spiritual aspect of this whole thing. So, and then, you know, I go back and I look at what happened with Zen and a lot of meditation practices. So whatever threatens this culture has this amazing ability to bastardize it. So on one level, yes, maybe we didn't see it, but on one level, we should have seen it because this is what has been done throughout. Now, there is a piece, and this is what I was saying, I'd love to hear your view on this with the people that you work with, the kids. There's an awakening going on. I mean, we're all getting our asses whooped. I treat young people, old people, different social classes, culture, we're getting our asses whooped because Gaia, however you want to describe this energy, me and you tap into from Qigong, the planet. I mean, it's a real thing. It's got a consciousness. It's wake up time because it's not working. I mean, it's not working. So there is a cleansing going on now. We can put our head underneath the sand as far as we want, but it's going to rock us. And again, I'd love to hear your view on this. I've seen more anxiety and insomnia in the last couple of years than I've seen in 3 decades of doing this work. I mean, our body minds, our nervous systems aren't shut down. So it's not just the Wi-Fi, which it is. It's not just the cell phones, which it is. It's this body mind, this thing that's ancient, a million and change old, and this 200-year-old thing trying to like fake its way around. This thing is screaming out like it's not working. I'm like, wake up, smell the coffee. Do you see that? Do you see that with people's?
I see it on many levels. There are different levels and wavelengths that we perceive things that sometimes we're not conscious of.
Absolutely.
And I think that what you're seeing is the person is receiving those impulses. The person is receiving that information from the environment, from the universe, from the spirit. And they don't know what it is. So it's causing them distress. They may think that it has something to do with their job. They may think that it has something to do with their life even in some regard. But I think there's a signal coming from the entire collective distress that the planet is having, people included, because sometimes we try to exclude ourselves from the natural phenomena.
We're not connected.
Right, somehow that we materialize here, you know, is a separate entity, and that, you know, I always say if a fly, you know, beats its wings in China, they talk about how there's a hurricane here, you know. We are connected from top to bottom with this place. I spend a lot of time in the woods, and one of the first things you see with people who are living in the city, when the lights go out, it's always fascinating to me when we're in the woods, and, you know, when it really gets dark, then all of a sudden, some people just straight up can't handle it. Other people, they come alive, you know. everything comes alive, the tactile comes alive, and then there's this other sense that you can't necessarily put your hand on or say or define it, but it's present. There's something there that's just like, you know, don't walk into that tree. You know, don't fall that way. There's something over there, don't go that way. And some of us are more tapped and some of us are not more tapped, but the influence is there from this phenomenon. It is crying, the planet is crying, big tears. We're seeing, whether you believe in it, forget about the scientific model where they're talking about, okay, there's greenhouse gases and this is occurring. If you're paying attention, you don't need anybody else. If you pay attention and you have been here for a minute, you can see that things are different. Things are changing. Things are accelerating in a bad way. More people are hurting more people. More people are hurt. There are more complex pathologies. There are some weird things that people can't explain. They have this. I mean, my first complicated pathology was a proximal muscle deterioration disease in somebody, and nobody knew how he got it. There are more and more of those kinds of things. There's these layered, weird pathologies, right, where you're just like, we don't know what it is. You got like 5 or 6 different things. We don't understand what is happening. And I have personally seen the most change in terms of people getting better when they change the way that they're living.
There's so much energy available now. But to address your point, I mean, we're basically functioning on less than 3% of electromagnetic phenomena. So we're basically flying totally blind, and we actually consider ourselves wise.
Well, we can't see infrared. We
97+%.
Right, we can't sense.
And we think, and you know, the scientific model, I mean, that was my background is biology, and I really think there's a place for it, but it's also become the new religion in the terms of it's got so much blindness it doesn't even see it. So every couple of years it moves something. Oh, we said that was it. Oh yeah, it's this now. We said that was it. No, it's this now. So that model also is only useful to a certain extent. We need to really open up our eyes, which taking it back to the first one is the embodiment piece. The way you navigate these waters, this thing's 1.5 million years old. This thing's 200 years old. Which one do you want to use? Something that's been around for 1 million and change? Or do you want something that's a couple of hundred years the way you're using it? That's why the embodiment piece is so important now. To actually be in these bodies, that's to me where the solution is.
You're talking about trusting yourself.
Yeah.
You're talking about trusting yourself innately in a way in which most people are not encouraged to do. Science is discouraging our personal trust. When you say the biology is a religion, because I also have a science background, we were indoctrinated.
Of course.
We were like, this phenomenon exists, this phenomenon does not exist because science cannot prove that it exists. Meanwhile, if I'm experiencing it, if I'm experiencing something that you say doesn't exist, what does that make me?
That's the whole thing, right? And that's what I was saying about Newtonian quantum. I mean, science really has to go, and is starting to go into the quantum mode. I feel that's the work that me and you do, and I feel medicine is doing that now. We're going to look back at this time of medicine and be like, oh my God. The way we look at bloodletting, which actually works in certain cases, we're going to look at it and be like, what were we doing? Like, really? This is what we were doing? It's a whole quantum shift, and that's what's happening inside people's psyches. It's beyond, we have to wake up and smell the coffee. And again, the body piece to me is the most safe way, because the body always speaks the truth.
Interesting. Well, I mean, we've said a lot, and I just want to wrap up with saying that I'm still positive, and you're still positive.
Yeah,
and there's changes that are going on that are beyond our kin, beyond our recognition as people. But I think that the positive aspects of it are also bleeding through, where you see in this time when there's so much distress, you see a lot of people rising.
It's a great time for waking up. The gift, I'm actually beyond positive. I feel this is an amazing opportunity. I feel that souls are incarnated at this time to really burn through a lot of old stuff and really herald a new way. We have to step up to ourselves. I mean, not being hypnotized anymore. We can't be hypnotized by culture, by race, by sex. Next level.
Yeah, and we have to stop the culture of distraction.
So that's the bottom line. You just put your finger on it. To be in the body, to be embodied, you cannot be distracted. You have a culture that's based on distraction. The whole consumptive thing is distraction. Do you pay attention and awareness, or you distract and disconnect? There is your choice.
Yeah, you got to pull back the veil, see the mysteries. You got to swim in there. And it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah. Scary to the ego, scary to the part that's constantly distracted, scary to the part that feels it's this separate unit. Scary to the part that thinks they're two different people, as opposed to actually it really is all one. Really, it's all one.
Right. And we don't really have much choice either. That's the other thing. So I'd rather take the initiative and do it on purpose than have it slapped on me.
Because now it's an asshole. Because now it's not like a little tap. Now it's an asshole. And like the SWAT team comes through the door. It's not even like knock. So
yeah.
You said a mouthful there.
Yeah, I don't want to. You know, I'm a punk. I don't want those kind of ramifications. I don't like pain.
I think only fools do. That's a wise man. That's not a fool. I think that's a wise man. There's no honor to get your ass kicked and being proud of it. That's just crazy.
Well, tell me quick about your book, because you got a book out. At least let us know what the name is so people can maybe put their hands on.
So I wrote this book a couple of years ago called Shadows on a Path, and it's actually everything we just talked about.
Okay.
Everything you just said.
You can still read the book.
Spirituality, how we're disconnected, how it's become a consumer thing. Addiction, how we actually disconnect, how we're disembodied, how yoga and meditation, a lot of these paths were actually hijacked by this consumptive culture. I mean, you actually said the whole thing, so.
And where can people find you if they want to find your services?
Well, just go on abdiassadi.com. You can actually read my stuff up with podcasts and stuff out there, and you can just.
Okay, and I'll post that for you so people will know that we were here.
Yeah. Great to meet you again, man. After how many years, decades, man. You're a great man. Still are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.